Imagine a preacher who changed a nation with a single speech. Imagine a man chased by cameras, followed by wiretaps, and targeted by the most powerful domestic security agency in the country. This is Martin Luther King Jr., celebrated hero, polarizing figure, and a man whose life holds unexpected darkness. Stay to the end. The closing revelation will make you rethink everything you just heard. Early life and rise. Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Trained as a Baptist minister and a scholar, he combined theology, nonviolent strategy, and charismatic oratory. He stepped into national leadership during the 1955-56 Montgomery bus boycott, a movement that launched him into the spotlight. Key facts to remember: born 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott. Co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Delivered the "I Have a Dream" speech at the 1963 March on Washington. Awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Assassinated April 4, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. Achievements and impact: King's leadership helped produce sweeping legal and social change. Nonviolent mass action pushed Congress to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. His rhetoric reframed civil rights as a moral and constitutional imperative. He remains the defining voice of the American civil rights movement. Quick wins and legacy: nonviolent direct action as a powerful tactic. National attention to segregation, voting rights, economic injustice. Institutional and cultural changes still taught and remembered today. Dark stories and controversies: the story of King is not only triumph. There are darker, well-documented episodes that complicate the saintly image. FBI surveillance and active campaign to discredit. From the late 1950s through the 1960s, J. Edgar Hoover's FBI monitored King intensively. Agents bugged hotel rooms, tapped phones, and compiled detailed dossiers. The FBI's COINTELPRO operation actively sought to discredit civil rights leaders. Hoover considered King a threat and directed efforts to undermine him politically and personally. In 1964-65, the FBI sent anonymous letters and tapes intended to intimidate King and shake his marriage. The most notorious is the so-called suicide letter, an anonymous package that urged King to kill himself and threatened to expose alleged sexual liaisons. Recorded allegations of sexual misconduct. FBI wiretaps captured King in compromising circumstances. Those tapes and later historical research indicate that King had extramarital affairs. These revelations were used by the FBI to blackmail and publicly discredit him. Historians debate the meaning of these recordings, but the factual record shows the FBI attempted to weaponize King's private life against him. Accusations of communist ties. The FBI and many political opponents highlighted links between some civil rights activists and communists to smear the movement. King worked with a range of allies. He accepted support from left-wing groups at times, which the FBI used to argue he was a subversive. Most scholars conclude King was not a communist, but that the association was politically exploited. Allegations of plagiarism in academic work. In the late 1980s and 1990s, scholars documented that parts of King's doctoral dissertation and other writings included material without full attribution. In 1991, Boston University reviewed the dissertation, acknowledged that passages were not properly cited, but decided not to revoke the degree, citing context, contribution, and the practice standards of the time. This controversy complicates the image of an infallible moral leader. Assassination and aftermath. On April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in Memphis. James Earl Ray pleaded guilty and was sentenced to prison, later recanting and fueling decades of conspiracy theories. Contested questions, ChatGPT plus Midjourney GPT-5. Many questions and alternative theories persist about who else may have been involved, and whether local or federal actors failed or participated. In 1999, a civil suit brought by King's family concluded that there was a conspiracy involving government agencies, a finding many historians and official investigations dispute. The assassination remains legally and emotionally contested. Why these dark stories matter. These grim details show that King's life was fought on two fronts: the public battle for civil rights and a covert battle to destroy his credibility. The tactics used against him, surveillance, character assassination, and manipulation, tell a larger story about power and fear in that era. Final reveal: if you expect the darkest secret to be a neat conspiracy or a single villain, here is the twist. The most chilling truth is not only the FBI plots or King's personal failings. The real darkness is how a democratic system used its institutions to silence a voice calling for justice, and how those same institutions still struggle to confront inequality today. The conclusion most viewers miss is this: the campaign to discredit King worked in small ways. It narrowed how his legacy is remembered. People celebrate the dream, but often ignore the parts he insisted on until his death. Fierce critiques of economic injustice, demands for guaranteed jobs and income, and outspoken opposition to the Vietnam War. In short, the sanitizing of King's image, turning him into an acceptable, non-threatening symbol, was itself a moral defeat. It allowed his radical economic and anti-war calls to fade while the safer, more inspiring elements remained. So the real question to carry with you is not whether King was perfect. He was not. The deeper question is whether a society that once tried to ruin him has learned to face the systemic injustices he fought, or whether it prefers a comfortable memory over uncomfortable change. If you watched until the end, ask yourself, do we honor King by protecting his image, or by finishing the work he insisted was unfinished? Thank you for watching. If you want more stories like this, give it a like. Good luck.